Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from Sridham Mayapur. It's our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. My name is Madhavananda Das, and today we're going to go on a journey to Vrindavan, a journey of the heart. And the title of our discussion today is Letters of Love. And we're going to hear something about the messages of love that were exchanged between the gopis and Krishna after he'd left. And in our discussion, if we continue, if we get that far, we'll go on to speaking something about Krishna's dear friend Uddhava. So before we go any further, just a few prayers. Gora Graganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Goranga Gura Tamagopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shavanarotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Vede Ramayanesh Chaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adavante Chamadye Cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shigurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinkaname Vandavela Parikori Ve Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good morning, dear devotees from Sridham Mayapur. My pranams to Madhupati Prabhu. It's very early in the morning for you. Thank you for attending. Nice to see you again. Naveen Vijay Prabhu and Mahendra. Thank you all for taking part in something. So today we're going to have something of a reading and discussion, mostly from Gopal Champu. In our last session, we spoke something from a rare book, no, not by Dr. Vilas, about Radharani's madness, a book called Dibyonmada, about Radharani's message to Krishna. And in our session today, we'd like to continue with speaking about those messages from the gopis to Krishna. So after Nanda Maharaj had given gifts to the Vrajabasis and repeated Krishna's words to them, those Vrajabasis, they decided that, no, we shouldn't commit suicide. And hearing that, they said, Jiva Goswami says, Tad anantarame vachatam tan mantranam itishtite Krishna shukaike sukha diya sarve pite sudiya prachu. bhavatu swadukam apiso davyam tad ihitam tu vodavyam iti. Those wise Vrajabasis who were there at that time hearing Krishna's advice, Krishna's request that you please wait for me, Ayasya, I'm going to return, it's my promise. Those Vrajabasis whose only happiness, Krishna Sukhaika Sukh dear, was that Krishna should be happy. They said, Bhavatu, that's okay. Sadukam apisodavyam. We'll tolerate our own suffering and tolerate Krishna's activities if it gives Krishna some happiness. So, at the same time, Nanda Maharaj couldn't tolerate seeing Yashoda's pain that Krishna was staying in Mathura. And Nanda Maharaj then read this letter to her that Krishna had written for her. We spoke about that, I think, in 3 or 4 sessions back. And that letter began with the description on the first day there was rice with milk. My dear mother, you think that you're cooking all these things and you think that I don't know, and you're wondering why it disappears. You think that there's some madness on your part. Very similar to Gora Lila, in which Mother Sachi was also cooking for Nimai. And Nimai was coming personally and taking that. It was disappearing. So when that letter was read out to Mother Yashoda and everyone there, it's described by Jiva Goswami that for one danda, 24 minutes, everyone just stood there. And they couldn't say anything. And he describes at that time, there were hot and cold tears flowing down their faces. And what to speak of Mother Yashoda. So when cold tears are given, that's a sign of ecstasy. Hot tears are a kind of lamentation. And so this is the nature of this separation from Krishna. There's both fire and ice together. And Srila Sanatana Goswami in one purport in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he explains this, the nature of separation. It's like fire and ice together. At that time, Nanda Maharaj's older brother, Upananda, who turned over the ruling of the kingdom to Nanda Maharaj, we spoke something, just a little note on this, we spoke something recently about Govardhan Leela for Govardhan Puja, and in particular we spoke about 2 different systems of management, the system of Indra and the system of the Vrajabasis. We want to ultimately go to the system of the Vrajabasis, but sometimes the system of Indra is required because the people who Indra is speaking to are not on the level of the Vrajabasis. But ultimately, real community means that everyone is so much on the same page with their hearts due to hearing and chanting together that they're all inspired to serve Krishna. And you don't have to chastise them, you don't have to make a whole lot of rules. You just have to organize things a little bit and facilitate the Vrajabasis. So Upananda, saying that Nanda Maharaj was the most qualified person in terms of love for Krishna, Upananda previously said, no, you should be the king of Braj. But at the same time, it's not that Nanda Maharaj said, now I'm the king and you got to listen to me and just be quiet and things. Nanda Maharaj was always very, very respectful to his older brother, Upananda. And so Upananda, hearing these words from everybody about how they're feeling so much pain and things, and how they should tolerate that for Krishna's pleasure, Upananda, thinking very deeply in a sober way, he spoke up and he said, although we're feeling pain from separation from him, still we can't independently do anything else. We have to follow his advice. And from the time of him being a baby, true to his word, he protected everyone. Because of him, we neglected the sacrifice to Indra, and what to speak now? We should all do as he's instructed. So Krishna was hearing all these topics from one of his messengers, and when Krishna heard this, he became very happy that they're following my instructions. In the same way that Sri Guru also becomes happy when he hears that the disciple is following his instructions, even after his disappearance, after his departure from this world, he's always watching in the same way that Krishna is watching after Krishna left Vrindavan. So after hearing the words from Upananda, which everyone found to be very reasonable and appropriate, everyone said, yes, if we behave like this, then Krishna will return. Right? If we behave like this, if we always remember the instructions of Gurudev, there won't be any separation between us and Gurudev. So the Vrajabasis, they said, so to please him, we should follow his instructions. It's said that when Ramachandra went to the forest for a long time, at that point, Bharat, his younger brother, and others, Bharat, he survived on cow urine and barley. Anupayani Rad, can you do? Just we'll get for you 2 liters a day of nice cow urine and some raw barley. She wants to have her pizza and pasta instead. Okay. So Bharat was living on those things. We can't even conceive. If you did that in most temples, I think the devotees would protest. Huh? He didn't know which forest Lord Ramachandra was living in, or that he would have gone there, so he was just waiting for his return. So in the same way, we should follow the example of Bharat. And maybe we can't survive. What can we live on? Huh? So we should respect his advice. And Krishna, he wanted us to take care of the cows. He wanted us to take care of the bulls, like Padmaganda. Padmaganda is Krishna's pet bull. And Krishna requested the Vrajabasis, you take care of Padmaganda. He's very dear to me. You take care of all the other cows and bulls. So still, we want to have some reciprocation with him. We have something we have to say to him. So Krishna now, he's in Mathura. He's surrounded by people who don't understand us. So we should very quickly send him some secret letters. And we're going to write to him from all the residents of Vrindavan. This is very similar to I don't know what year it was, 1969 perhaps, or 1970, when Srila Prabhupada went back to India because he was having some health problems. He wanted to come back to get himself healthy again. At that time, all the devotees in New York and in San Francisco, they were all writing letters to Srila Prabhupada jointly, expressing their separation from him and requesting him to return. So Nanda Maharaj, hearing everybody speaking, he said, yes, this is a very good idea. So then he turned to Mother Yashoda and he said, you should write. Not that Nanda Maharaj is going to write. Not that Nanda Maharaj has so many things to say. So Upananda has so many things to say. They all have so many things to say, but they asked Yashoda because her Vatsalya Priti is the topmost. Her love for Krishna as a mother is the topmost. So listen carefully to Mother Yashoda's letter to Krishna. Agyayate tatasid brajadaladi vido saiva saiva brajena tvanmatrapi prakashad arachina cha chiram tacha kopi vyadatta kintu pranadikoti pratima Mukaruche netra brindena bhuyas twat kantinam didriksha chapalita gatina manyate jatu naiva. She addressed Krishna as Brajadalidi Vido, or the moon of the ocean of Vrindavan. And she said that Saiva Saiva Brajena, all the residents of Vrindavan, Agyayate tata sid, they're all ready to follow your order. Tanmatrapi, also your mother is ready. We won't hesitate to do that. He said, but she wrote, but kintu, but Krishna, pranadi koti pratima mukaruche netra brindena bhuyas. You should know that the beauty of your face is worth millions of our lives. But our desire to see your beauty is so intense that although you're giving this order, Our eyes are not ready to follow that order. Our nature, our eyes, they don't want to follow that instruction from you. And Mother Yashoda went on to say, Satyam tat tad diva samanute bhojanam tat tad asid itam chitte spurati mamahatatra chasin tripti yasman mohad ahaha mayaka putra tat puranaya prapto nasid avasada iti swantam antadunoti. Mother Yashoda, then she acknowledged Krishna's letter. She said, yes, it's true. Satyam, Satyam means it's true. Satyam, tat tad divasam, on those days, anute bhojanam tat tad asit. It's true what you said. I did make those things on those particular days. But although the food disappeared, and although I saw you coming to eat that, although it appeared in my heart, itam chitte spurati. Spurati means to appear. In mama, my chitta, my heart. Ha tatta chasin na tripti. Still, I wasn't fully satisfied. And because of that, my heart is burning and burning within. I want to see you. I don't want to just see you for a brief moment or in some spurti. I want to see you directly. Nanda Maharaj, at that time, everyone's collecting their letters, writing their letters to Krishna in Mathura. Nanda Maharaj had already said everything to Krishna, and he couldn't bear to say anything more. But he decided, I should write a letter to Vasudeva. And here's Nanda Maharaj, what he had to say to Vasudeva. Saptama putra pranam anunasan mai bina distrita yatte tadayam chastama putra sattavatari mo samam palyo. He spoke in such a sweet way to Vasudeva. Now, in one of our previous sessions, we spoke about some of the exchanges between Nanda and Vasudeva and how both of them have this mamata, the sense of possession of Krishna, which is the nature of loving dealings. It's a nature of marriage. It's a nature of friendship. You belong to me. You're my wife. You're my husband. It's the nature even of the guru. Although, as we spoke recently, Pillai Lokacharya, in one acharya in the South India, he said that the guru shouldn't think that this disciple belongs to me, but at the same time, there also is some mamata. When that disciple comes close to the guru's heart, guru becomes very appreciative. Yes, this person, you belong to me. But not in a sense of false ego, like someone who in the material world is thinking this way about their wife, their children. Those kind of upadis, those kinds of designations, are all based on selfishness, and in that sense they're a kind of violence. So Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj, although they have this mamata, Krishna is their everything, at the same time they spoke in such sweet ways to each other because they have this deep empathy. They're not just speaking in terms of philosophy and logic and, look, Nanda Maharaj, we understand you really like Krishna, but Krishna appeared first here, and I'm the one who carried Krishna across the river, and I put him down. And Nanda Maharaj could have said, wait a minute, Baba, you want to try to say that I cut the umbilical cord to his mother. We have proof over here. Both of them have very good arguments, how Krishna is their son. But neither of them wanted to insist like this, seeing the heart of the other one. It's a very, very important lesson for us in Vaishnava dealings. That ultimately Siddhanta, it comes secondary to bhav or to priti, to love. So Nanda Maharaj wrote this letter to Vasudeva, and he told him, Saptama putrarpanam anunasin, that when you gave me your seventh child, At that time, nasan mai bhina dristiti yate. You didn't cause me to see any difference between us. I don't see any difference between the two of us. So now, tadayam chastamaputra, when you gave me the seventh child, that seventh child is Balaram. So now let the eighth child also be yours. Tad imo samam palyo. And you should care for both of them. Because Nanda Maharaj, he's not interested in arguing with Vasudeva. His Vatsalya Priti is pure. And there's no upadis that Krishna is mine in that sense. There's divine mamata there. But that mamata is in his divinity. There's no sense of argumentation with Vasudeva. Rather, Nanda Maharaj's only concern is for the welfare and happiness of Krishna. And so he's writing to Vasudeva in this way. Yes, yes, let the eighth child also be yours. But you please care for both of them. So they sent that letter, and the elders there in Vrindavan, then they, although they were feeling great pain, they continued to perform their actions in Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami says, just out of previous habit, as if they'd attained realization of Brahman. They were like statues who were somehow moving mechanically and doing something, but their minds were completely with Krishna. At that time, Subal, who was there with Nanda Maharaj, he delivered Krishna's message to the people of Vrindavan. But at that time, he didn't deliver it to the gopis. Because the gopis, when they heard that Krishna was not returning right away, when they saw that Krishna didn't return with Nanda Maharaj, they became very weak in the fire of separation. And Jiva Goswami then speaks something about the situation of Radharani. Vrikshan prichati vartma pashati harim tatra matam manyate tatsarvam manute mrishavitanute chitkaram ukampate lalam munchati chetanam vishajati sparata hasanatati evam ched brishabhanu jajani tadakutrasti sandeshyata. Radharani, as we described in our last session, she became Unmadana Radha, as Rupa Goswami says in Lalita Madhav. She became mad. Dibyon Mada. This madness, this divine madness. And in that divine madness, Brikshan Prichati, she began to speak to the trees. Radharani, in America there's a kind of a derogatory phrase. They call someone a tree hugger. Because during the 60s and 70s, when people were coming to cut down some of the forests, some people would chain themselves to the trees. No, they wanted to protect the trees. And actually that protect the tree movement began in India in the 50s, as far as I recall. Anyway, it's another thing. But the original tree hugger is Srimati Radharani. And she says, Brikshan Pritati. She's asking all the trees about Krishna. And Vartman Pashyati, she was watching on the path. Is Krishna come yet? Has he come yet? He's just waiting and waiting for that path. In the same way that the disciple is always waiting and looking for Gurudev. The disciple is asking the trees. He's asking everyone. He's looking for instructions from Gurudev, because Gurudev, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, will give us instruction through every tree, through every person. And the disciples also, Vartma Pashyati, is also looking to that pathway, waiting for Gurudev to arrive, just as Krishna is waiting for Krishna, as Radharani is waiting for Krishna to arrive. And Tatat Makam Manyate, Radharani was identifying her body with his. she'd become completely one with Krishna in separation. And in that mood of separation, she thought everything was false. And sometimes Radharani would begin to shout very loudly. And then other times, Radharani began to cry uncontrollably. She started drooling. Lala munchari chaitanam visrijati. Chaitanam visrijati. She lost her consciousness. And then suddenly she would jump up and start dancing and laughing very loudly. Tadaku chasti sandeshyata. He says that evam ched vishabhanu jajani. This is the situation of Radharani. How could this sandesh, how could this message be given to her? And then, at that time, Radharani heard something about Subal, the dear friend of Krishna, arriving there. So Radharani gathered along with all of her friends, her intimate Sakhis. She went to see Subal. And just seeing Subal, Radharani and the gopis fainted and were unconscious for a long time. This is also like the sincere spiritual aspirant, the person who's hankering for Krishna. But he doesn't see Krishna. How can I get Krishna? So he's crying and crying. As my Guru Maharaj said, Atma Krandana, or the crying of the heart. And then Krishna, who's in the heart of everyone, understanding the crying of that personality, then Krishna manifests before him, before her, in the form of Sri Guru. And such a devotee then feels so much ecstasy, so much happiness. Krishna has come before me as Gurudev. Oh! So in the same way, when the gopis and Radharani saw Subal, who's Krishna's representative, they fainted and were unconscious. And then when they revived their consciousness, they were so ecstatic, they couldn't even recall what to ask him. And they had some letter, but they couldn't give the letter to Krishna, to Subal. At that time, Subal began to read the message from Krishna to the gopis. And we also spoke previously about that. That letter also began, just like Mother Yashoda's letter to Krishna began with the word Satyam. This is the truth, this is a fact. Krishna's letter also to the gopis also began with the same word, Satyam. Satyam Santija Yushman. Krishna said, yes, it's true. I left you. Krishna's not going to argue with them. Yes, I know your life heirs are following after me. And I know I'm such a rascal. My love is not genuine. Your love is much, much higher, much, much purer than me. And therefore I'm hiding myself because I'm ashamed. But don't think I'm ever far away from you. Seeing their condition, understanding the medicine that they needed, that it wasn't just hearing a letter from Krishna, but understanding they had a need to reciprocate. Parasparanukathanam. This is bhakti. Bhakti doesn't mean we only hear Krishna Katha, but bhakti means that we reciprocate. We reflect upon what we've heard and we repeat back in our own understanding. So understanding this in a very high rasic way, I'm comparing it to a lower system with ascetic, but it's also a reflection of the higher position of the gopis. Understanding their need to reciprocate and to say something back, Subal asked them to give some reply. And so the gopis began writing a letter. And they put it in an envelope and they sent it to Krishna. And there's the gopis' letter to Krishna. Yet sandisasi balanuja samprapti api milanam asti nasta iti tat sarvam tava mathura stiti vishritir asmat anvitam gilati. They said that, O Krishna, yes, you wrote this Sandesh, Jet Sandisasi, you wrote this message to you. And yes, you said that Api Milanam Asti, that we're meeting with you. Yes, it's true. But there's a rumor. Tatsarvam Tava Mathura Stiti Vishrutir Asmadam Vitam Gilati. There's a rumor that you're going to stay in Mathura. And just like a demon, just like the Aghasura demon devoured all the boys, that rumor, the gopis address it as a rumor. They can't bear to say that, Krishna, this is your statement that you're going to stay there. We've heard this rumor. We can't conceive that this is actually true. This rumor is devouring us in the same way that the Aghasura demon devoured the boys. And the gopis say, yes, it's true. We're now meeting with you. The gopis now, in their separation, although these are the left-wing gopis who are characterized by their sulky anger toward Krishna quite often, now they're speaking in a very submissive way. And this is a result of their feelings of separation. They're not wanting to argue with Krishna. Krishna wrote to them in a very humble way, Satyam, Sanjata Yushman, yes, it's true, I left you. I want to hide because I'm ashamed, because your love is so much greater than mine. And Krishna said, don't doubt that I'm actually coming and seeing you. You think it's just some spurti or some vision. It's not, it's true. And the gopis replied, yes, it's true. We're now meeting with you, but we can't tolerate this rumor that you're going to stay in Mathura. Ihani jam agamanam ya vayad askrit astiti sandisasi satyam tat priyatad api brahmayati chittam muhustvad antardi. They went on in their letter. They said that, yes, what you said in your Sandesh, in your message, that you're going to come and visit us very often in your spurti. Satyam, that's true. But still, this separation from you is agitating our hearts. Sometimes devotees, they say, anyway, it's not so bad with the COVID lockdown and things now, because we have Facebook and we have Zoom and we can associate with devotees in that way. But now we're learning it's not the same. And I tell devotees sometimes, if you think it's the same, could you imagine going to the gopis of Vrindavan and telling them, anyway, don't feel bad, Krishna's gone to Vrindavan, it's okay. He's on Facebook. And you can contact, would the gopis be satisfied? They won't be satisfied. And the gopis continued their letter, Eshyasi satyam twamiha braja janataya sukham datum apiya Shanamoya kala satuna pratikulpate tra kulpaya. The gopis said that satyam, again they use this word satyam, that it's true. Iha braja janataya sukham datum. Yes, it's true. As you promised, you're going to return. You said ayasya, you're going to return to Vrindavan. It's true. The gopis can't tolerate to even think that it might not be true. And in this way, they're telling Krishna, you have to make it true. But still, Kshanamoya Kala, although we know, Krishna, you're only going to be gone for one moment, right? Right? This is how the gopis are speaking. Kshanamoya Kala. But that Kshanamoya, that brief second, for us, Satuna Prati Kolpatetra Kolpaya, it's like a kolpa for us. Yugaitam nimishena, chakshusha pravishaitam, shunyaitam jagat sarvam, govinda vidahename. And therefore, in the mood of the gopis who are suffering in separation from Krishna, in their mood, in the final chapter of Antilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given these words. That in separation from Krishna, a moment seems like a great yuga. Now it's interesting that Jiva Goswami doesn't mention a letter from Radharani. How is it? The gopis are writing to Krishna, but Radharani doesn't write to Krishna. It's significant. Yeah? There's one other letter which was sent along with this package to Krishna and Mathura. And that letter was not written by Radha. Rather, it was written by her intimate girlfriends. And what was that message in the letter to Krishna? The letter said, Vaidyastatyavalante danvantaridvan madopuryam umada pasmarajam riti riti kritikam mahoshvadam prishtam. O Krishna, we've heard that Vaidyas Tatyavalante, that in Mathura there are very expert doctors who are Dhanvantarivan, who are just as expert as Dhanvantari. You please inquire from them if they have any mahoshadam, any medicine which can counteract madness, epilepsy, and death. No message from Radha, just a message from her Sakhis. A very powerful message. This is a message from her Sakhis. Is there any medicine there? Any doctors who know how to counteract madness, epilepsy, and death? So these are the letters that the residents of Vrindavan wrote to Krishna, according to Jiva Goswami and his Gopal Champu. Later we'll also hear some other letters that Krishna wrote from Dwarka to them, and the response from the residents of Vrindavan before they went to meet Krishna in Kuruksetra. Because this is our long, winding path, we're wanting to understand the meeting in Kuruksetra, but we have to have a very big foundation for it. My Guru Maharaj, in the book Mathura Meets Vrindavan, he's commented, he said that Mahaprabhu has taught us how to do bhajan in the mood of separation. Mahaprabhu's guru, Ishvara Puri, Ishvara Puri's guru, Madhavendra Puri, and Raghunath Das Goswami are all great acharyas, mahant gurus. They are always engaged in bhajan in the mood of separation from Krishna, because viraha, feeling pangs of separation, is the topmost platform in prema, loving affairs. And he says that this viraha or vipralamba means external separation. Krishna is not present by sight. Krishna is away. But internally he's there in the heart. That is viraha. This is from Mathura Meets Vrindavan. And Guru Maharaj is echoing the words that we spoke in a couple sessions before from Srila Jiva Goswami's Priti Sandarbha. He says, Tatra vilambo viprakarshena lamba prapta yeshasa tata, where he defines vipralamba, separation, which means attainment. Lamba means attainment of vipra, from a distance. It means external separation, but internal union. Again, as my Guru Maharaj once said, viraha means externally away, but internally very close in the heart. Radha and the gopis, especially Radha, the chief of the gopis, desire to always keep Krishna in their heart. So how can it be done? Unless Krishna is away and they feel the acute pangs of separation, then they can't keep Krishna in their heart. At the time of union, separation is in the heart. At the time of external separation, union is relished in the heart. These two opposites. Therefore, they keep their most beloved Krishna in the core of the heart and relish the conjugal mellow. The happiness and taste they get from that happiness is millions of times greater than that of union. Therefore, viraha, separation, is the topmost platform of conjugal mellow. And it was for these reasons that Krishna left the gopis, left Vrindavan, to prove the purity of their heart, to increase the intensity of their love for him, and to actually, in the highest way, bring about union in the heart. So we'll speak more about this as we go along in our discussions. I want to stop now. And just as we heard how Subal, he wanted to, he saw as a perfect messenger that the gopis needed to reciprocate. They had something that they had to say to Krishna. So now we'd like to invite the devotees, Natalia, Brinda Sundari, Hare Krishna, Brinda Sundari. If you have any reflections or comments, Brinda Sundari has given a comment I like very much. She says, this one little sentence, definitely not the same. It's definitely not the same. Yes, it's definitely not the same. And we can see so many different things with this COVID lockdown and that, and I'm not a medical expert, I'm not a political expert, I don't know this or that, but I heard some things from my guru and from our acharyas, and I think from their perspective, their desire would be for us to see that Krishna's doing this to make us cry more, to make us appreciate more association with the devotees. And Braja Mataji's commented, madness, epilepsy, and death. And Madhupati Prabhu has commented, can Paramatma realization be as good as Viraha? Well, this is what Krishna is telling the gopis through Uddhava later on. We'll hear, don't worry, I'm in the heart as Paramatma and there's no and the gopis say, forget it, man, go away. We don't want that. It's not the same. The Paramatma is there, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Raghavartma Chandrika, he says that if you tell the devotees who are aspiring for Vrindavan that don't worry, Krishna is present in your heart as Paramatma, they're going to become very depressed. No, he has a four-armed form. We want to see the son of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. We're not interested in this Paramatma form of the Lord. That Paramatma feature of the Lord is the object of certain type of affection, a certain type of reciprocation is there. He's Upadrastanumanta Chadbharta Bhokta Maheshwara, Krishna describes in the Gita. He's the overseer and the permitter. He gives us realization. He gives us inspiration. And so we pray to that Paramatma feature for that. But that Paramatma feature of the Lord is not the object of Sudha Priti, of pure love. Because it's mixed with Gyan and Aishvarya that always there in the hearts of everyone, and is giving all this knowledge and realization and things. And so he's not the container or the reciprocal of Viraha in the same way that Vrindavan Krishna is. Bani, Hare Krishna, nice to see you. And Mahendra Prabhu was commenting, Gaudiya Bhajan is Viraha Bhajan, in the mood of separation, not Sambhog Bhajan. Yes. This Viraha Bhajan, our Guru Maharaj came to teach what is the Bhajan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is his mood. And to understand this, as Srila Prabhupada said in, I think it was Krishna book we were reading recently, this is the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, to understand these moods of separation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Brinda Sundari Mataji's given us some charity today also. Thank you for your donation. What is her donation? She says 2 words, I'm crying. That's the best donation. So I want to thank everybody very much. If there's any other further reflections or perhaps questions, you can go ahead and speak them now. I'll turn to the devotees who are here in the room. Does anybody have anything here? Anapayani Radha has some jewel that she wants to share with us. Question.
Yeah. Does it mean that Radha didn't write any letters to Krishna when they were in separation?
There's no mention of any letters from Radharani. And what do we understand from that? Does that mean that she doesn't care? We can't accept Hare Krishna. We can't accept that. But on different levels, this point is there. On one level, Radharani wasn't able to write anything. But Radharani, another level, Radharani didn't need to write anything because there's union in the heart. And Krishna understands the heart of Radharani, and everything is being expressed through her heart. Now, on another level, it's very significant that there is a message given about the condition of Radharani, and Radharani, in effect, is entrusting her most intimate associates to deliver that message, to write, to express it, and to give that to Krishna. And that's the feature of Guru. Gurudev, he's the representative of Srimati Radharani. He understands her deep heart, her deep mood, and he's coming and conveying that mood, not just message like Sarva Dharmam Parityaga from the Bhagavad Gita, here's this philosophy and you should surrender, but there's this feeling, as Vrajamataji comments, 3 words, madness, epilepsy, and death. that says it all. Okay, anybody else here in the room would like to share any reflection or questions or anything? Okay, just someone. Here's Krishna.
Krishna. I just love this analogy about just as Srimati Radharani is talking to every tree looking for Krishna, talking to every bush. So the disciple should be talking to every tree and asking for Gurudev's instruction. This was very significant for me. Thank you.
Because the disciple hears the instructions from Gurudev. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, you asked me this quote, remind me, I'll send it to you, that it's not that the disciple, when he gets that instruction, that he keeps it like a prisoner inside of the jail and understands it in the language of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in a lexical, graphical way. Lexicography means the study of a dictionary. That in a dictionary kind of way, Gurudev said this in a mechanical way, I remember it, but no, Bhaktivinoda says that rather they should reflect, like a satellite reflects light, that we should reflect the instructions from our Gurudev. It means we should contemplate those instructions. And we should always be looking for the meaning of those instructions, to go deeper in those instructions. And so we see this in example, Srimati Radharani, who's inquiring from every tree, every plant, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. I want to thank everybody very much for reciprocating with us with this katha. This is our service to our Guru Maharaj. We're not exactly speaking anything, it's just a reading and speaking a few things. Our paraspara, we're trying to reflect the light that we've gotten from our Guru Maharaj according to our humble understanding. And we want to share this with the devotees, and we'd like to have your light, your reflections back. And then it's a Vaishnava Sangha, even though it's only on live Facebook. So thank you all very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Gop Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.